The movie opens up with a scene showing a red insect, furious to save his life from the people moving along the street. But luckily a man who could have just eliminated the insect saved his life, as this insect reminded him of some story. This is the main character named Chuck. The story begins with Chuck entering the restaurant nervously. The manager asks him for the reservation to confirm. By the time he can reply, a girl named Grace appears and takes over the scene with her vibrant aura and confirms the reservations for the two. Further chit-chat between the two begins. Chuck is the survivor of a shipwreck who with his fortune gets a place on an unknown island which he named the Larva Island. He tells Grace about his story as he is interviewed being the survivor. He seems to be sad throughout the interview because he thought that no one would believe him about what he is saying and what he has gone through during the time when he was struggling on the island. After spending 6 months on the island, he came to know that it is home to a group of friendly but mischievous creatures called larvas. Along the way, he encounters various other insects and creatures living on the island. He has to bear with the challenges and obstacles, such as finding food and shelter, avoiding dangers, and building rafts and other contraptions to try and reach civilization. The scene shifts to the past and shows him as a brainless junkie who is suffering from the desire for the life of which he used to be living. He was sobbing, groaning for the food that he had when he was at his home. He was drawing the food on the big brown rock. This is the place where the two main characters of the movie were kept in the scene, a yellow and a red larva. Chuck once again went to check out what he could do to save his life. He then found the wrecked boat engine, which made him believe that he is going home after 6 months. After snapping out the engine, he finally affirmed that it might not work. A man with a rumbling and empty stomach who moved on with despair. He prepares a table for lunch, and to compensate for what he used to have as food, he cheerfully made snacks using the only available leaf pads on the island. The two larvas were seen gulping around him with the food, as if he was having something very delicious, but that's not the case. Chuck left the place and secretly went to where he had hidden the special sweet candy which he kept as a source to consume in emergency conditions. He was slurping the candy before having it. This got the attention of the two larvas. He took a nap, so larvas got the time to get attached to that sweet candy, so they were but being his lucky strike. He felt that someone is entering his place, and he woke up and checked out his candies, and found these two larvas there. They made him roll over and over, but he couldn't get his candies back. They went away with his candies to the jungle. Chuck tells Grace that there were not only 2 of these bugs, but there was the third one as well who lives in the jungle having ninja characteristics, and saved the yellow bug from the swan who came for his lunch. The swan followed the yellow bug from the jungle and got the chance to attack them when there was no way outside to leave the place. The third bug appeared to be a Tarzan bug who wore a mask and risked her life to save the yellow bug. The red bug seemed to be infatuated with her and entered her personal space for rescue. She seemed to be ignorant upfront, but she also had feelings for the red which she was hiding from him. The plot twist here is she was even pulling away all the hurdles from his ways without letting him know about it. They even crafted each other's faces on the rocks to represent the gesture of love. The scene again moves to the table where Chuck is briefing over the details of his story. Grace asks him if only him and 3 bugs were stranded on the island. He replies that there was a seal in the troop as well who was found starving in the crate along the seashore. She was named Clara, as the locket says. Bugs feed Clara with the food that made their relationship bond. They soon realize that the seal has a beautiful and soothing voice that comforts them and the other creatures around. However, Chuck was sobbing over his girlfriend whose name was Clara as well. He only has memories and a picture of her in the locket. He was screaming and crying, calling her name, and eventually heard the reply and found out that he can take her as a pet. Clara wanted the bugs and Chuck to live happily without any brawls. Otherwise, she tended to leave the seashore. Grace mocks Chuck about the story and says maybe there was something like a UFO coming there and that there was an alien on the island with him as well. He replies that it is true. A whirring UFO smashed into the island and the small robotic device fell out, scanning the whole place. This device was swallowed by the crab, which was then converted into an alien. He had his first target on the bugs. Chuck helped them out and put that robot down. That robot seemed to be useful for Chuck as an equipped tool, so he made him serviceable for him to reach his destination. This robot is called Crabformer. Onto the table again, the lunch is served. Grace asks him about his food on the island. Chuck discovered that the larvas have a special talent for cooking. Yellow Bug represented his delicious meal in the group first. This made Red feel jealous about it, as her girlfriend was attracted to Yellow for his creativity. He became sad and left the place, took his life in the jungle, and spent days and nights working on the unique recipe that made him stand out. He returned after some time and challenged the Yellow Bug and won over him by making a porridge that exclusively occupied the position. Grace asks him more about the bugs, and Chuck recalls and says Red and Yellow's friendship was the most admirable fact he observed. One time they were getting each other out, another time they were risking their lives for each other. They support each other no matter what and always find a way to get through the tough situations they encounter on the island. They also learn to adapt to the new environment and make the best of it. He further shared that during the days he got the pollock fish one day for his lunch, and he was excited to have it, so he started cooking. A yellow bug was making a mess out of it, and consecutively troubling his way to his lunch. Since the red one was swallowed by the fish, Chuck was roasting that fish without knowing the red was stuck inside the fish's belly. Yellow, being a true friend, successfully managed to help his friend and got him out. From here, everyone inside the restaurant, including the chef and the manager, are interested in his fantastic story and appreciate him for that. They are more curious to know what happened further, so he shares the crazy stuff. As usual, he was engaged in the preparations to reach his home, and he was making another raft for that purpose, which again falls off by the sea due to windy weather. These bugs were the cause of that situation, so they tangled around again and reached the cliff of the island. Something unusual happened. The lightning struck and fell down on Chuck and the yellow bug. The next second, Chuck realized that they both had switched their souls. Chuck was living in the body of Yellow. He had to bear with all those inconveniences by which the small bug has gone through. All his anxiety and panic were rated exponentially when he heard the voice of the rescue ship, and he couldn't make it due to his physical form. He needed to do something rogue, get out of this condition, so he made a trap for the yellow bug and let him climb that cliff again, so the second strike would switch the souls again. The moment he got the shock, he woke up and was glad for his good luck. The interview continues and Chuck tells them about the weather of the island, and when it was hot it burnt, and when cold then it froze. They have been attacked by the Arctic waves where all of them shared a bond with each other. They ripped off everything they saw just to light up the fire to stay warm. Eventually, they froze but luckily managed to get all the glaciers burnt down with a repulsive but effective strategy used by the yellow bug. Some time has passed, and Chuck sees fishes dripping from the sky just like rain droplets. He looked towards the sea with panic and saw the typhoon coming towards their island. After much resistance, unwillingly they all fell into the tornado. Inside the storm, they were hit with all kinds of stuff that the tornado has collected, but they have proved their firmness very efficiently. Deep down, Chuck saw that storm has an eye and he decided to poke its eye. So they strategically sent down the yellow bug and successfully accomplished their mission. On the tables again, Chuck is asked to tell them how he made it to his home. One day he was relaxing and he felt something shaking leading to the earthquake. After some time, the volcano started to explode and there was no way left except to leave the island, so he started to gather all his newly made little companions. In the end times, the red and Tarzan bug are not present at the place, so he went off finding them and saved them from the blazing fire and took them out of there. Island split into two partitions, Chuck with the two bugs stuck on the other side, while Clara, Yellow, Swan, and the robot on the raft on the other side. The volcano was immersing from Chuck's side, so he had to make his way to the raft. He decided to jump on the other side to get the raft, but his foot got hit by the rock and he slipped away. Fortunately, he had a stick that he used to put on the ground to save him and the bugs from the volcano. But this could not be the solution, so he threw the bugs toward the raft and waited for his time to come. Suddenly, his companions started to throw coconuts in his way so he could climb across them and reach the raft. They all coped with the plan and managed to escape the island. Tarzan bug didn't like to leave her place, so she jumped off the raft and whistled in the sky so the swan could pick her on his back. This made Red sob and moan for his love. When everything settled down, Clara found other seals from the ocean, so she joined them. Crabformer got thrown at the island where he found his love. And eventually, Chuck reached the city from where he has been lost. Larva Island again returned to its original condition where harmony and peace were everywhere. Chuck seems disheartened as he lost his companions that supported him in his difficult times. They try to increase morale of Chuck at the end of the interview. Grace publishes a book named Larva Island that always reminds us of the distinct experience of the person who made some unique friends in the very tough times of his life.